Reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. Hello everyone, and welcome to MMO Reporter's preview of Shadowfell Conspiracy. I'm Chris, and we're here in a session led by Leo Tan, PR guru for Turbine, as we sit down with some developers, take a look at the game, and see what it has to offer. Now, the audio and video isn't perfect, but I thought you'd enjoy seeing it anyways, so enjoy our preview of Shadowfell Conspiracy.
Let me introduce you to Charles Miles, Senior Content Designer for Waylon and some of the things we're going to see today, and also Ryan Levitt, Content Designer.
Hi guys, this is Charles, also known as Knockback on the forums. Here we are in Waylon. Every Dungeons & Dragons adventure starts in a tavern, so here we are in the Waylon Ball and Chain Tavern.
Cool. We also have, although this is a Charles and Ryan show, Eric Boyer's in the room, and Aaron Campbell's in the room. Any questions you have, just fire them into the chat box and I will ask them into the room.
Let's head over towards the prison. Pick up your party members. Yeah, we'll pick up the rest of our party. Right now, we're playing Morning Lord. That's one of the new iconic classes for Shadowfell Conspiracy. And we're going to see some of the other Forgotten Realms iconics, including a Shadar-kai and a purple dragon knight. So what they do in Waylon is they take you to the top of the wall and they literally throw you in and leave you to fend for yourself. Oh. And here we go. Here's our party right here. Got Melange and Good. Melange is a Shadar-kai. Good is a purple dragon knight. And we're going to go venture into the prison ourselves, just see it first experience as a prisoner would by throwing ourselves over the wall. And here we are inside the prison. You can see the prison has been trashed. It used to be a prosperous little town, but then it was turned into a prison, and the prisoners have just trashed the place. Like I said, it's full of random encounters. You can see there a Waylon native fighting off some of the criminals. We rush to the rescue.
So, hey folks, I'm Ryan, known as Melange on the forums, and I was one of the devs who put a lot of work into the random encounters here in Waylon. The thing about Waylon is that even though it's just a single city, and a relatively small one at that compared to Stormreach, it has a lot of small groups that are in the city. We have the natives who were just locked in when the walls came up. We have the criminals that the Cormyreans throw in here for their various crimes. We have actual Shar worshippers, who are the reason why the walls came up in the first place. And then we have other various factions, like gargoyles, who really are just here for their own sake.
They fly now. And
they fly now. And we have the Netherese, who are here on their own nefarious business, and we'll be seeing a lot of them. And it's been a lot of work putting all these groups in here because we want to make sure that each one has their own area, that it feels unique, and that you're going to be experiencing different encounters as you go along based on which faction's territory you're in.
So Waylon is a town of twisty alleyways. It also has a lot of rooftop gameplay. So pretty much any flat roof you see in Waylon, you can get to. For example, to your left there, you can get up to that rooftop. Put up the ramp. And you will find special encounters up on rooftops. You'll find ways to get to areas you otherwise couldn't get to from the rooftops.
You'll find archer ambushes who are just shooting down at you. It is not a safe place to be.
So we're seeking to make the most of some of the things that make DDO unique, like the ability to do things like jump and climb. All right, we've arrived at a dungeon entrance. Inside Wayloon, in addition to all the convicts, are some innocent civilians, just ordinary townsfolk who were trapped inside the prison when the prison was created, and held just because their sister was a Shar worshiper or something like that. And this dungeon has you helping those guys out. These guys are under attack, so they've taken refuge down in the drainage culverts.
So remember, you got 10 seconds to line.
And criminals are attacking the Waylon natives. And that survivor just warned us that you need to go tell the other native camps what's going on and protect them from the criminal attacks. And you can see, they wiped out this whole set. So while during the course of this dungeon you explore these drainage culverts and you will find various camps, I think we'll shortly skip to the south camp. And these are, we've had dungeons and sewers before, but this is a whole new set of, a whole new look for sewers. Nothing else in DDO looks like this. Combination of these arches and natural assets. Gratings up there. Gratings up there are important because that's how the criminals are getting into these sewers. They're dropping down from the gratings.
We really want to make sure that this sewer felt very different from all the sewers in Stormreach, because we've heard some people feel like, oh man, this game has a lot of sewers, but
yeah, we actually haven't done a sewer for a long time. It's a classic DDO trope. All right, here we are in the South Camp. We need to find the camp elder and talk to them. And thank you for warning us. Uh-oh, it turns out that the criminals are attacking. So they close the gates leading to the camp. But unfortunately, that's not enough because there are also going to be some criminals dropping down from above. And we'll fight off the criminals. Let's see if we can find a trap stone someplace. That might be a thing to look at. Those are some of the. There's one of the shortcuts you can use in this dungeon.
there's a trapsmith right there.
Oh wait, there's trapsmith off to your right. Right. Oh, the trapsmith right first. Okay, trapsmiths lay traps, and if you just run up to them, you will detonate that trap, and it will cause poison damage and reduce your strength. So the smart thing to do with trapsmiths is to run behind them and attack them from behind, and avoid the trap. Those guys are new for DDO, and indeed all of these, some of these criminals have other gimmicks. Burglars, for example, will detach them.
So
They like your crepuscular rays.
Our crepuscular rays. Yes. Yes, we like them too, even if we can't pronounce them.
So, a big portion of this level is about the fact that, the natives have this section of territory, and the criminals want it. So they are going to attack, instead of attacking Harvest Hall, their home base, head-on, they're trying to attack from these secret culverts from behind. So it actually turns out very convenient that the adventurers are here to save the day once again.
And yes, incidentally, Harvest Hall, that's the main base of the Waylon natives. Once you've completed this dungeon, you will open up Harvest Hall. You can use that as sort of a base of your own. It has a rest shrine. There's also a vendor there who can repair your stuff if it's gotten damaged. So it's a handy little feature. You also unlock some shortcuts for the landscape if you complete this dungeon. All right, so we've saved the South Camp. And I think that's what we're going to look at for this particular dungeon. Yes. Well, they're there because of the strange goings-on inside the prison, which I talked about briefly before. And in fact, it turns out that Cormyr's traditional rivals, Netheril, the Empire of Netheril, are the ones stirring up trouble inside Waylon prison. Netheril also worships Shar, so they've decided that Waylon prison is a natural place for them to essentially start an invasion. And they've broken into Waylon prison. They broke into a prison, which is kind of strange if you think about it. Broken into Waylon prison and started creating an army out of the Shar worshippers by using the Shadowfell. The Shadowfell is a separate plane of existence. It's the plane of shadow. And they're essentially using the Shadowfell as a shortcut to get into Waylon and recruit their army. Next quest we're going to look at deals with some of the folks who work with the Netherese, namely the Shadar-kai. The Shadar-kai are natives of the Shadowfell who have been touched by what's called the Shadow Curse. The Shadow Curse gradually consumes their soul and pulls them in, permanently into shadow. And to fight that, the Shadar-kai constantly seek out extreme emotions, extreme feelings. So they will do things like intentionally get involved in fights. They will do things like pierce themselves. If you look closely at a Shadar-kai, you'll see that they're covered with piercings. And they will do other unpleasant things, which we'll learn more about soon. Oh, and there's a Shadar-kai doing a chain attack. Whenever a Shadar-kai does a chain attack, you want to run far away, quickly.
They will keep on attacking as long as they know they have someone they can hit.
So this dungeon is about a Shadar-kai commander who has kidnapped some Waylon, some Cormyr magistrates. And your job is to try to rescue the magistrates if you can. And if you can't, well, then assassinate the Shadar-kai commander. Going a little bit further on. Look, gargoyles. Maybe they'll come to life. Ah, he's one stone. And this Shadar-kai, in fact, has taken his, he's trying to fight the Shadow Curse by pursuing extreme emotions. So much so that he's actually gotten into trouble with the Netherese. He's gone too far by kidnapping these magistrates. So he's in Dutch with the Netherese.
So I think we're going to, again, skip over to the boss and show a bit of the mechanics that we've been working with on this dungeon.
Right, so as I said, this Shadar-kai commander has taken one of the Cormyr magistrates hostage.
Can we get a close up of a Shadar-kai's face, please?
Yeah, so let's take a look at one of the Shadar-kai players. That's actually a Shadar-kai player right there. Yeah. And you can see the piercings in the face, tattoos, and the hairstyle.
We've actually made it that you can customize some of what the piercings are. Like actually, the piercings and the tattoos are both customizable player settings.
So yes, you can be a Shadar-kai who has decided to not follow Netheril and instead choose the path of good. There's our boss.
Can we get screen grabs of the face?
Yep.
Thank you.
So talk to the boss to start the fight.
Ah, chained.
Yep. He's doing his chain attack. He's got inside the cage in front of you is a set of traps. So he will detonate the traps which will end up killing the magistrate if you take too long to disable the traps. So during this dungeon, it makes sense for one person to take on the boss while other people try and turn off the traps and save the magistrate, which is an optional to get you some extra experience.
And then, in addition to these traps, he also has some pet howlers, which are a new monster in video. They are dog-like creatures that can work together to stun the players with their howls.
Speak of the howlers, there they are. Yeah, so howlers will howl together in combined group effort. And that's a new set of technology we're introducing to this expansion pack, and we'll see it some more when we talk about Stormhorn's Mountains. You're on. Right now, yeah. Howlers will debuff you with a stacking debuff if they howl together. Hey, we saved the magistrate! He's not wearing his robe yet, but he's a prisoner. He doesn't have nice things. All right, victory is ours. So as I said, the Netherese are in Waylon to recruit an army from the Shar worshippers and the prisoners. And your job, of course, is to stop them. Oh! Now we got some criminals attacking us right now. Now that was one of the players using the
Puppeteers here.
We've come across some shadow puppeteers. Shadow puppeteers are capable of turning certain friendly forces, such as NPCs, NPC magistrates, for example, against you. And you, in order to get... Oh, we got a question.
Justin would like to know why the prisoner has a sword.
Which prisoner has a sword?
The one that was in the cage.
Oh, you know, they're crafty. They've had years and years. As I said, they're thrown into the prison, left to their own devices. The guards do minimal stuff to interfere. So they have made their own swords out of bits of iron lying around. Plus, the Netherese are also supplying them now.
All right.
Yeah, people who are familiar with the works of John Carpenter and Kurt Russell may have detected a certain theme behind Waylon, which is fully intentional. And there is a guy called Snake you can meet in Waylon Prison.
If you want to get out.
Yeah. If you look hard enough. Oh, there's one of the quest journals you'll find along.
That's actually one of the random encounter assassination missives.
It's an assassination order. Yeah, so this is one of the random encounters where the Shadar-kai have been instructed to assassinate someone. Well, they've been instructed to assassinate two people. You and somebody else. You need to save the somebody else. That's Old Stone Hall. As you can see, it's crackling with magical energy. The Netherese are creating what they call the Shadowfell nexus in there. That's the connection between this plane and the Shadowfell. They're using to travel back and forth into and out of Waylon Prison. And ultimately, we are going to be disabling that Shadowfell nexus. But before we do that, we have to stop their army recruiting. And here we are outside their recruiting camp. And in fact, yes, you can see behind you, unless somebody's killed them all already. Yeah, somebody's killed them all already. There was a little recruiting rally going on back there, but they're all dead now. Oh wait, there they are. Yeah, these guys, it's a beta, folks. They're a little bit too devout. A little bit too devoted to the cause. They refuse to fight. But as I said, this is the Netherese Recruiting Center. This is where the Netherese are recruiting an army, and you're supposed to stop them. Speak with the recruiter.
Hey. What was the name of the jail again? Sorry.
Waylon Prison.
Waylon Prison.
And it's WHELOON. We, the developers, like to call it Waylon! But actually, it's pronounced Waylon. All right, here we are in the recruiting center, and in front of us, yeah, walk up and look at the Shade. We've got a Shade General here, who's the big bad for this dungeon. Shades are Netherese who have intentionally taken on part of Shadow into their bodies. So they're part Shadow.
I apologize, sorry. They were actually asking the name of the hall, the central hall where the Shadowfell Nexus is.
Old Stone Hall.
Old Stone Hall. Oh, one word? Old Stone?
Correct, one word. And Shades run Netheril, pretty much. And so they serve as bosses for a couple of the dungeons in this pack and also in the Stormhorns. So yeah, try talking to the Netherese recruiter. And you're like, I want to talk to the general. He tells you a bunch of stuff, and you're like, well, we'll just kill you all. So you kill them all. So during the course of this dungeon, you explore the Netherese Recruiting Center. We're going to skip to a couple of the more dramatic parts, including next a section with Shadow Puppeteers. We already talked a little bit about the Shadow Puppeteers. They take control of friendly units. And they can be tricky to fight, both because they take control of the friendly units. You don't want to kill the friendly units. In fact, on the landscape, you can be rewarded for saving the friendly units.
It's a bit like the slaves in our previous expansion. We want to let the heroes actually, help the innocent.
The other thing, being shadows, the shadow puppeteers can be actually hard to find. And a trick to note here is that light, if you turn on a light, it makes it easier to find a shadow. So we've included in this dungeon some lights you can turn on to help you spot things. So like, yeah, there's one right over here, a brazier. Turn it on. Hey, lights go on. Meanwhile, we've got this Netherese wizard here.
Yep. Can player characters be enslaved?
They will not be enslaved, but they can be held for a couple of seconds. So it's not nearly so. Oh wait, the shadow puppeteer is taking control of some of those prisoners in front of us. Oh, but they failed. Take a look to your right. That's interesting. Shadow puppeteers have a very bad record. I know we just did a pass on fixing them. I saw on a dev machine yesterday. We're adding strings, so you'll see strings coming out of the controlled people when the shadow puppeteers control them. And the shadow puppeteers, again, this isn't a build that hasn't gone up with the money yet. You see the shadow puppeteers pulling the strings with the special animation. We've defeated the shadow puppeteers. Yes, and this is the part of the dungeon that is in control, of the Netherese, where they keep their Shadowfell creatures. We're going to skip to the end, to the boss room, which is actually inside the Shadowfell. The Netherese General has its headquarters inside the Shadowfell. Now we're going to turn on some lights. Oh, there we are. Okay, now we're inside the Shadowfell, which you can see is dark and purple, as it should be.
We decided there wasn't enough purple in our game, so we made sure that we added some to this update.
We took some purple out of Giant Hold in the last update, so we took all that purple and put it back in here. Yes, you also, we just passed some floating newspaper pieces that are frozen in midair. That's because in the Shadowfell, things are strangely still. Except for the boss who is attacking us. As I said, he's a shade. Shades are powerful casters. He also has a trick. He will do shadow walk at certain times, where he will disappear and reappear someplace else. And he also has friends, powerful friends, like a Nightcrawler, which is what that is. A Nightcrawler is a creature from the Shadowfell, which is a giant worm. If you went fishing with that Nightcrawler, I'm not sure what you would catch. Fortunately, we were mighty heroes and also cheaters, so we were easily able to slay it. There's a shadow puppeteer holding a player. But yeah, he broke out of it. And down goes the boss. Alright. Victory's ours, except for some possibly more remaining shadows. Yeah, there's a shadow puppeteer over there.
We have made it though that the shadows, like the shadow creatures, are all they all take extra damage from light spells. So the new Morning Lord iconic is going to be exceptionally good at fighting them. Yes,
Morning Lords are specialists in dealing with light spells, and therefore good at anti-shadow.
Will players visit the Shadowfell often?
Yes, so while you're out on the landscape, at any time you might be pulled into the Shadowfell. And that usually happens while you're fighting Shadowfell creatures. Plus, as we'll see, in this dungeon you visited the Shadowfell, and in the next dungeon you could also visit the Shadowfell. The next dungeon takes place inside Old Stone Hall, and there's Old Stone Hall right there, as you can see, with the magic crackling out of it, caused by the Shadowfell Nexus. We're going to go in and... Oh, wait, we're being attacked.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of our older landscape, we really put a lot of encounters here, so it is going to feel like a very populous urban environment. It is very dangerous walking around Waylon alone.
Well, not so much alone, because we do scale for party size, but you know, you want to keep your pay attention. Okay, so now we're inside Old Stone Hall, and you can see that it has been walled off, which means we can't proceed forward. But here's Orifon. People who are familiar with GDO are familiar with Orifon. He's shown up in the last couple updates. Who's here to help us out? He's found some mirrors, and by using these mirrors, we can shift between the prime material plane and the Shadowfell. So by looking into the mirror, we shift into the Shadowfell, and hey, in the Shadowfell version of Old Stone Hall does not have the wall block down, so we can walk forward into that courtyard. And that is how this dungeon works. The Netherese have set up Old Stone Hall so that only people with the mirrors can navigate it as a security measure. And so you have to shift back and forth between the Shadowfell and the Prime Material Plane to make your way through this dungeon.
And one thing you'll realize while going through this dungeon is that there are some enemies that you will only find on the Shadowfell side, and some enemies that you're only going to find in the Prime Material side. So you might walk into a room and it's going to be completely empty, but if you switch over to the other side, you're going to get attacked by a whole bunch of guys.
You can have your party split between the two different planes here. So in other words, you can have one person standing in the Prime Material plane and the other person standing in the same place in Shadowfell, and you wouldn't see each other. Fortunately, handy map will show you exactly where your other party member is. And you can, shift back and forth between them. Now we're going to go look at the boss fight in just a second. Oh yeah, here we are. Now we're in the boss room. The boss is a very powerful Netherese shade who is able to exist in both planes at once, which makes fighting him especially tricky because you might get him down to a certain amount of health in one plane, but then he'll defend himself with that bubble of magical energy. And in order to fight him any further, you need to switch to the other plane and fight him in the other plane. So you need to constantly switch back and forth between the two planes to fight the boss. I'm being attacked by some Shadar-kai.
So this is definitely one of those fights where if you have a large party, you can try and split up a bit and hit them on both sides.
Yeah, and hit him in seconds. Disappears. So that... there's a bunch more to this dungeon. We've only shown a very small portion of it. There are some surprises in there, like shadow beholders, as well as some shenanigans with another mini-boss who shifts back and forth between the planes. But now victory is ours. It turns out it was another scroll that was responsible for this Shadowfell Nexus. People who have been following DDO will understand how this ties into Update 16, which we did last year. Update 16 combines with Shadowfell Conspiracy to sort of tell one story. We started out in a tavern, so we should probably go back to a tavern. Because we've defeated the Netherese in Waylon. We deserve a drink, or two, or three.
What are you, a dwarf?
I think.
Wait a sec. The purple dragon knight's scouting ahead for us.
Yeah, the purple dragon is finding a good tavern for us to visit. Oh, we entered the Shadowfell immediately. Yeah. Okay, now we're in a tavern inside Waylon that the Netherese have taken over. And they've done some of their typical Netherese things. Netherese are very highly magical, and they tend to use magical tricks of various sorts. We're going to see a couple of those here. Well, one thing, they have all those floating obelisks. Which are an interesting conversation piece as part of their decor.
And check out the back room.
Yeah, check out the back room. Follow the Shadar-kai. Oh, okay, so that's a trap. That's a new kind of trap, and what it does is it takes objects like crates, barrels, and bar stools, and turns them into animated objects that attack you. So it brings objects to life and then makes them attack you.
Now you can try and prevent it from happening by breaking some of these objects before the trap has a chance to pull them in, or if you're a good trap disabler, you can just disable the trap yourself. So there's a whole bunch of ways to deal with this trap, or you can just, fight all the monsters. That's totally open.
And the Netherese take this to its logical extreme. Here we have Hunkadrunk, who is a animated object monster made out of brazier and obelisks.
A couple of orbs, table, and a barrel of something. It's a secret.
And he does lightning punches. And the reason it's so purple, incidentally, is that we're in the Shadowfell. This doesn't always happen. Oh yeah, there's yeah, and as you whittle down Hunkadrunk, pieces of him disappear.
There you go.
All right.
Job well done.
Job well done.
Time for a drink at the bar.
Time for a drink at the bar, and we'll admire the owlbear over the bar, which will serve as a warm-up for the Stormhorns. Coming soon, well, you'll see many more owlbears that are slightly less subdued.
Now, will there be a variety of creatures created by the animated decor depending on the trap?
Yeah, so what things you will end up fighting will depend on what breakable objects are nearby.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're near a bunch of vases, you'll fight a bunch of vases. If you're near a bunch of bar stools, you'll fight a bunch of bar stools.
Cool.
Any other?
Are there any other questions?
Yes, so there are some other questions if we are kind of towards the end of the guided tour. Yeah, I guess let's go to questions.
You can also just go out in the landscape and run around while we take questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do a bit of that. Is there any new music for this expansion?
Yes, there will be new music for the expansion, most of which is not in yet. So you won't necessarily be hearing it if you go on to Lamania today. But soon.
The next beta will have an update for the landscapes. They'll have their music in for all the wilderness areas. So there are a couple of different themes for the Waylon landscape. There's a different theme for public space, and the Stormhorns will also have a set of variants on a similar theme.
When will pre-purchase start? We will have an announcement soon.
When did we start? We were starting a while back.
Oh, hang on. Sorry. Yes. My bad. They've already started.
Yes.
You
I'm
find a
mixing up my
mysterious
games.
cure.
Is the question
What
whether
door could it
there's a
open?
preview period?
No.
No. It was a pre-purchase, but I have been dealing with Lotro dates, and I mixed the two up, and I apologize. That was a amateur hour for me. So there was something about going through the here we go. Yes, sorry. Players can go through the Shadowfell during dungeons. Does that mean that there are different paths to completion, or will players always have to go through go into the Shadowfell to complete the dungeon?
For Old Stone Hall, there are certain sections that you will always have to do a particular section, a certain set of transitions between the planes to get through. Although it's a non-linear dungeon, so different people can do it in different ways. But you will find certain doors where the only way to get through that specific door is to shift into the Shadowfell.
Got it. Do you get to keep the mirror to shift between planes?
No. Sadly not. It only works in that specific dungeon. Oh, we just saw a leaping Shadar-kai animation. But he decided to leash. Oh yeah, so here we got some of the walkways and rooftop gameplay in Waylon. So it's great that you can run around on the rooftops. The one thing everyone should know, though, is the monsters can also do the same thing. So pretty much any rooftop you can jump up on, or climb up on, the monsters can get to you there too. Yeah, so the guy you just pulled should eventually show up. Right here.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed the Dungeons & Dragons Online Shadowfell Conspiracy preview put on by the team at Turbine. Thanks a lot for having us out, everybody. Don't forget to check out the MMO Reporter podcast on the MMO Reporter Network, easily found at MMOreporter.com. You can also find all of our other podcasts there as well. Thanks for watching, everybody, and see you in-game.